While it might not be the first electric-assisted supercar, let alone the first hybrid McLaren, the Artura rewrites the supercar rulebook in 2024, and I'm going to show you exactly why. Now, we've enjoyed the McLaren Artura in its coupe form in Australia, but we're here in the south of France and McLaren hasn't invited me here to practice up on my Year 12 French skills. So let's get right into it and I'll show you everything you need to know about the 2025 McLaren Artura Spider. The McLaren Artura Spider follows a tried and tested McLaren timeline whereby a supercar is first released and its Spider derivative is unveiled shortly thereafter. However, the drop-top model also headlines the introduction of more power, revised suspension and transmission tuning, and the addition of active safety technology to the model year 2025 Artura lineup. Interestingly, the Spider version is just as fast as its hardtop counterpart in almost every metric, aside from its 0 to 200 km/h sprint time, which is 1/10 slower than the coupe. Otherwise, that means the Artura Spider can run from 0 to 100 km/h in 3 seconds flat, and on to a 330 km/h top speed. It's capable of such performance thanks to a combined power output of 515 kilowatts sent to the rear wheels through an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. The 3-litre twin-turbo V6 engine produces 445 kilowatts of that 515 total figure, and the electric motor adds 70 kilowatts. The Artura draws its electric power from a 7.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery, good enough for a 33-kilometre fully electric driving range. As for the price, we've already heard the Artura Spider will start at $525,010 before on-road costs and options. And there are plenty of options available to make the Artura Spider your own. Styling-wise, the looks of the Artura Spider don't stray too far from what we've come to expect from McLaren in its previous designs. Now obviously up front it is beset by a set of sunken headlights, and obviously there are mammoth air intakes. In fact, there are air intakes all throughout the car. You can see on the quarter panels up there, down the side. And then at the back of the car, it ends in a full one-piece rear deck lid, which is really impressive. Now, obviously, being a Spider, this car can raise or lower its rooftop, this hard-top roof, in 11 seconds and at up to speeds of 50 km/h. Unfortunately, there is no opening the rear canopy to reveal the V6 engine underneath. McLaren has instead opted for seamless panels and grills so that owners and onlookers alike can catch a glimpse of the twin-turbo V6 engine underneath. McLaren incorporates dual exhaust pipes within the rear grille, but the exhaust hardware itself scores an update for 2024, which now sees the system produce more noise at mid and high RPMs. Inside the cabin, the experience is proper theatrical supercar. The doors open upwards, these seats are extremely huggy, and all of the materials throughout the cabin are really high-end. In terms of how this car feels in its fit and finish, it is really finished to a nice standard and it is very refined. Now, we've driven the car throughout sort of city streets, country flowing roads and freeways, and it's all felt really nice and sturdy. Now, one of the first things I want to talk about is these seats. Now, they don't look particularly hardcore, but you do get so much support, and there's actually a decent amount of adjustability to get a nice driving position as well. Now, I'm quite tall, I'm 194 centimeters, but I'm finding I've actually got a really decent driving position and I've got a nice vision out of the cabin. Now, one thing I want to point out is the fact that this car does get rear buttresses, which are in glass, so you do have a really good vision out over your shoulder there, and that's particularly easy for when you're on the freeway and you can do tight maneuvers or around city streets and that kind of thing. It is handy to have that vision, and it all just feels really nice and premium. Exactly what you want when you're spending big dollars on a supercar like this McLaren. There is no overload of buttons throughout the interior, just gear selection down on the center console and a portrait-oriented 8-inch main infotainment display. That display controls all things to do with the car's settings and entertainment, plus it comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if you do prefer those systems. The driver gets a separate digital cluster for all pertinent driving information, but it's nice to see a focused performance car do away with steering wheel buttons. You can see from its styling that McLaren hasn't strayed too far with the Artura Spider compared to what we've seen before in its previous designs. There are functional vents up the front, and in fact they extend all the way around the car as well. Being a supercar, storage capacity is not this car's forte, but actually McLaren has provided a few little spaces for odds and ends. Now, as an option, you've got a wireless phone charger. You do have a center console box for storing very thin items down there, but you also do get a decent amount of storage in the doors themselves, and obviously that front boot, which does have a 160-litre capacity. But obviously this car is all about its performance, which it delivers in spades. So let's go explore it. All right, as I thread my way through this hotel car park, I just want to first talk about the fact that this car is on electric power. Now, up here on the instrument binnacle, up here you can change between one of 4 powertrain modes. It's got electric, comfort, sport, and obviously track as well if you are on track, and that will change the car's dynamics in each and every step that you take. Now, I like the fact that it is independent to the handling, which is on the other side. So you do have comfort, track, and sport. One thing I found today driving this car through city streets and in town, it is really compliant and really refined. Now we are in electric mode at the moment, and there's almost no cabin noise whatsoever. So that is really impressive from a supercar. Not something that you'd typically expect a McLaren to do, but it's doing this drive at the moment at low speed on completely zero emissions power. One of the first performance aspects I want to talk about is the fact that this car's steering system is hydraulic. Now, McLaren hasn't gone the electric steering route with the Artura or even 750S products, because it says that hydraulic feel from steering is really important, and it's one of those experiences when you are actually driving the car, it does feel like a really nice, direct and accurate steering system. It doesn't sort of snap back to center like you'd expect on some cars. It is really compliant and easy to drive this car around town especially. But we are here in the south of France, so even though at the moment the weather is a little bit cloudy, I reckon we're due to open up the roof and really get this car doing exactly what it was designed to do. There we go, 11 seconds to raise and lower that roof. Let me just chuck the car into its sport modes. So at the moment we've got the powertrain in sport mode and also the handling character. And with each and every step, this car will feel different. And you can hear now out the back, there is a little bit more exhaust character from that twin turbo V6, which is one thing that I was kind of worried about coming to experience this Artura. A V6 supercar is not something that you'd really, I guess, ideally want, but the noise that this car makes is really incredible. Even with the electric system tacked onto the back of this twin turbo V6 engine, this car is really loud, and it's also really engaging as well. So I'm just driving at sort of normal city speeds on this rural road at the moment, and there is a decent amount of character that this car has. And as we're coming up to a speed hump here, I'm gonna raise the front lifter so that we can get over. It's actually quite compliant. So when you are driving around town and you do have those sort of speed humps, you can raise and lower the front lifter in 4 seconds, and it'll automatically lower itself when you get up to about 60 kilometers per hour. But for the time being, let's lower it and see what this car does. So back there is a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 engine, which also has hybrid assistance. Now, together it produces a bit over 500 kilowatts. It is 700 horsepower if you like it in horsepower numbers, but 500 kilowatts in a car of this size, it only weighs just under 1,500 kilos, and that is really impressive for a car that does have a big battery pack as well. As we're getting up into speed now, I'm shifting through the 8-speed seamless shift gearbox, which is what McLaren calls a dual clutch, and it is razor sharp with how it shifts gears. This car is really impressive just shifting itself. It is lightning quick and it is really smooth and refined. With the Artura Spider, McLaren has put a lot of effort into making this cabin really quiet, because obviously you have a little bit of wind going over the cabin at the moment, but you tell me, does it actually sound pretty decent what my voice is telling you? Because it feels really nice and quiet inside the cabin. McLaren has done an incredible job with this car's aerodynamics. All right, as we're driving a little bit more feverishly now. Oh my God, this car is amazing. The power on tap is just absolutely intoxicating. It is so quick to shift and also responds incredibly quickly to throttle inputs. One thing that we've found today is there's a whole lot of body control that this car has when it's going through corners. You don't sort of get the feel of this car losing traction or sort of swaying too much. It is dead flat around bends, which is very impressive for a Spider product. It also doesn't get upset by mid-corner bumps and that kind of thing. The car just irons out that sort of imperfection really well. You actually do get a really decent amount of vision throughout this cabin to sort of see what's going on behind you. And overall, I've found that I've got a really nice driving position in this car. You have a decent amount of adjustability as well to get the nice sort of vision out through the windscreen and also around the back. But otherwise, this car is really quite refined when it's not in its all-out sporty modes. Something I want to touch on is the brakes in this car, because while this car is fitted with optional carbon ceramics, they are so good at stopping you when you are coming into a corner hot. You stamp on the brakes and it really just reins in speed remarkably quick. I love the sense of responsiveness from this powertrain. You can put your foot down and it goes bloody fast whenever you want it to. This car is really easy to place on the road. It's not intimidating. You don't feel like you're going to hit anything, especially being a left-hand drive car. It's really easy to place on the road. And one other thing I want to mention is this car's ride quality is really impressive for a supercar. You do have 3 modes of damping control, but I'm finding in all 3, well, for the exception of track, it is really compliant over all kinds of French road imperfections. So our first experience of the McLaren Artura Spider, what have we found? Well, this car only gets better with its roof off. Now, you don't have any performance deficit whatsoever because this car is really capable up in the twisties, and it also feels incredibly special. Just having that roof off gives this car so much more experience and so much more aura that you really do expect in a McLaren supercar, and it feels extremely capable in any kind of environment. Now, I can't wait to spend more time in this car when it arrives in Australia, but for the time being, what an impressive first go. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or learned something interesting about the McLaren Artura Spider, be sure to give us a like on YouTube and stay subscribed to get all of our future content. As well, you can read the full review on Drive.com.au.